I have this weird feeling that Oda is actively trying to piss me off. If I am remembering right, among every single YouTuber, I objected the most to the idea of Gorosei being very strong. But during Egghead Island, Oda overshadows Kizaru by giving Saturn advanced Conquer Hockey, awakened mythical Zoan, magical capabilities, and some powers that we have no idea what they are. But now in chapter 1104, he's overshadowing Saturn by hyping Kizaru. So I'm not gonna power scale them anymore, and I'm gonna wait until they show me more hype and feats. But I'm not gonna lie, the idea of Kuma, Sanji, and Frankie giving severe damages to Saturn looks good, because again, I do not want 5 above Admiral level character in the side of world government. I want a balanced story. But again, we shouldn't overanalyze everything that happened in 1104 based on power level, because this was narrative doing something and not power level. Remember the moment that Shanks lost an arm to a fish? We cannot really use that moment as a power scaling logic because that moment was necessary to the plot and narrative of One Piece. Kuma giving an almighty punch to Saturn is a very necessary thing for the narrative of One Piece. So, we really cannot invest too much idea on this moment, and we have to wait before judging furthermore. But again, in chapter 1104, not only Kizaru outstaged Saturn, he showed us that he deeply cares about his friend in Egghead Island. I'm not suggesting that this man is about to betray Marine and world government. I'm just saying we need to acknowledge that he was holding back for a fact throughout the arc. It is fair to remember that Kizaru also have other long-term friends in Marine. Even people like Akainu, Sengoku, Garp, he deeply cares about these people for decades as well. So the idea of him betraying Marine for the sake of some friends and abandoning some other friends is not technically very logical. So I don't believe that Kizaru is about to publicly help Luffy, but he is about to hold back his power and miss some opportunity for killing people in Egghead Island. The main reason that I am objecting to the idea of Kizaru betraying world government for the sake of his friends in Egghead Island is the reason that any good story needs tension. And if Kizaru betray world government, there will no longer be any type of tension, a real tension, in this arc. During this chapter, Saint Saturn ordered a Bustercall on Egghead Island. But I believe even the people who severely underestimate the power of Logia admirals will agree with me too when I say the power of one admiral is significantly more than few vice admiral and even 30,000 soldiers. So if Kizaru abandons Saturn and go to help another Yonko and his crew, Saturn and all of those soldiers have absolutely zero chance of winning this battle. Therefore, this decision will kill the tension in Egghead Island. Therefore, it is a very stupid decision. Kizaru holding back and Kizaru not killing everybody that he can makes more sense. And this could be his way of helping Vegapunk and other friends that he have in Egghead Island. Also, the moment of Kizaru holding back his power and saying, hey, perhaps I needed a darker shade glass, reminded me of Garp during the Battle of Marineford. In Marineford arc, Garp had to choose between family and duty, and now Kizaru needs to choose between friends and duty. And this type of hard decisions will make a character more complex. Therefore, they are a better decision story-wise than just Kizaru be overwhelmed by emotion and betray the side that he was in for like past 40 years. But now let's talk about Sanji, and in fairness, I do owe him an apology because I severely underestimated his power. Again, he had it coming because after Saturn merely looking at him, Sanji was down and couldn't move. So after that, I was like, okay, it seems Oda absolutely have no interest of making Sanji hype again, but in this chapter, he earned my respect. And not only Sanji, Frankie also used a beam to give a severe wound to Saturn, which he immediately healed, but nonetheless, what Frankie did actually was more impressive than what Sanji did. But for God's sake, Frankie is the person who fought against Big Mom and now Saturn. A Yonko and a Gorosei member, this man needs a lot more respect. I am fully aware that for this week, Sanji fans and Zoro fans are gonna have an epic bloody battle, but I am genuinely happy that Zoro is not part of this fight as of now. This might be a news, but I love every single Straw Hat, and I want to see every single one of them shine on the screen. This did not happen during Wano. During Wano, Luffy and Zoro received far better glorious moments on screen than the collective endeavor of all Straw Hats combined. So now that other Straw Hats are getting glorious moments, I'm genuinely happy because I have seen enough of Luffy and Zoro as of now. I want other people to get their own moment, and I'm genuinely happy Zoro is not part of this fight, even though he's about to destroy Lucci. By the way, where is Luffy? Kizaru stood up, but there is no hint of the whereabouts of Luffy. Some mysterious figure who probably had a very good deal with Burger King saved Luffy in the previous chapter by giving him a lot of food, and in this chapter, Luffy is just gone. The most obvious scenario is that somebody from Egghead Island, from probably Robin or Caribou, gave him a lot of food, and now they are protecting him so he can be recovered and join the fight. But I like to push things too far. I like to present a scenario that makes the story of Egghead Island more complex. Because we know for a fact that there is a Blackbeard ship somewhere around here. And I want Lafitte to do something big in this arc. Lafitte is probably the only commander of Teach crew that we are yet to see a glorious moment from him. This was the same man that went to the Holy Land of Marijois without Mihawk and Sengoku realizing that he is in that room. So he has the sneaking capability of going into this battlefield, save Luffy, and take him to somewhere else. Why, you may ask? Because I believe Blackbeard pirates are about to do something very dangerous, perhaps killing a Gorosei member like Saturn. And they do not want to put a big red target on their back for killing a Gorosei. They want to kill him, but put all the blame on Luffy. This makes sense narratively. Also, we need to remember the next great war in One Piece world is probably the Second God Valley. So we need more setup for that war. So Blackbeard pirates joining the narrative of Egghead Island and not just randomly showing up by the end makes One Piece a better written story. I mean, this is probably 1% improvement, but 1% in One Piece is a big deal. But of course, the best part of the chapter was finally the reunion between Kuma and Bonnie, and Kuma hugging his own daughter, and Bonnie be like, I read your memory. I know that you wrote all of those letters to me. I love you. And that was such a beautiful closure to perhaps the best backstory that Oda ever written. And this is no small statement, as Oda is one of the best backstory writer in the manga industry. Kuma was the character of the year, and his backstory was the best thing about Egghead Island so far. And in this chapter, we finally received a closure to a storyline in Egghead Island. Also, there is a beautiful poetic thing going on in this chapter. The main reason that Kuma was a slave was his bloodline. And in this chapter, he became a free man because of his bloodline. Saturn and Vegapunk designed Kuma to be a soulless robot, but now, because of the bloodline of Buccaneers, Kuma could regain his consciousness at some level and become a human or a person with a soul once more. So the very same blood that made him a slave made him a free man, which I believe is a very, very poetic nature. Bartholomew was the name of one of the disciples to Jesus Christ, and everybody would love the idea of Kuma still being around. So, Vegapunk giving the consciousness of Kuma to a previous disciple of Joy Boy, the giant robot in Egghead Island, is a very great idea that I am keep rooting for it. If Kuma become that giant robot, he can be like a second Zunisha, and with his remaining consciousness, he can play an even greater role in the final saga of One Piece. And again, this chapter is a testament to the greatness of Oda as a writer. The second act of Egghead Island was Kuma and Bonnie backstory. And in this chapter, when they finally found a closure, Saturn gave the order of a massive Bustercall. So in the very same chapter that the second act of Egghead Island ended, The third act of the arc began. So next week is the beginning of the final act of perhaps the greatest arc of the New World. In few days, I'm gonna publish a video about 5 people who can defeat Prime Garp in a fair fight. And you can also check out my previous video about 10 reasons why Egghead Island is clearly superior to the arc of Wano. Do not forget to subscribe if you enjoy my content. That means a lot to me. We are a growing channel. I hope you enjoyed this video and I see you all at Laugh Tale.